Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to another episode of our War in the Pacific play-by-email game against XTRG. In today's turn, we're going to be looking at the combat results for December 27th of 1941, and we will also be looking at the orders that we'll be issuing on December 28th of 1941. So you can see the first action here in the early morning hours of December 27th, our Japanese submarine off the coast of Australia launching torpedoes against an Allied troop transport. Fortunately, those torpedoes missed. The second action appears to be a anti-submarine warfare task force dropping depth charges on a Japanese submarine just outside of Pearl Harbor. And this is encouraging because we've had a lot of anti-submarine warfare patrols in the Pearl Harbor area, and the Japanese have a lot of submarines there, but we haven't really done any damage to the Japanese. The only Japanese sub that we've seriously damaged or sunk was near Malaya. And that was done by British destroyers as part of a surface task force. This was actually an escort for a tanker task force, by the way. So it wasn't an anti-submarine warfare patrol. It was actually just escorts. Okay, so we're moving through the early morning phases. Apparently there's some flooding issues on the Arizona. As you remember, we sent, I think, 4 or 5 damaged battleships out of Pearl Harbor this turn, and we're attempting to race them to the American West Coast, where they will be able to repair much more efficiently and quickly than if we keep them at Pearl Harbor. We left them at Pearl Harbor for a while, mainly because we wanted to get their flooding damage under control. But now that they're at least moderately seaworthy, we are sending them off to the West Coast to do the majority of their repairs. Meanwhile, we can see we just had a AKL, a light transport north of Batavia, that was torpedoed and sunk by another Japanese submarine. The Japanese submarine campaign has been incredibly effective against us thus far, and that's been a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is, and we're dealing with it. Meanwhile, we're into the air phase here on the 27th of December. You can see here a bunch of patrol aircraft are in the air. We're actually going to fast forward here just to speed things up a little bit, and we'll see what happens here. So kind of fast forwarding through all the recon phases, you can see here there is going to be some air combat over China, just northwest of Hankow. We've been bombing Japanese troops in this general vicinity for a while now. We sent 11 Chinese bombers, including, 8 SB-3s and 3 A-29A Hudsons. The Japanese have intercepted them now for the first time with 8 Ki-43 Oscar 1Cs, and that's concerning because we didn't send any escorts with these aircraft, and these guys are going to be sitting ducks. So we'll fast forward a little bit and see what happens. Looks like 6 of the SB-3s made it through. Dropped their payloads on the Japanese. According to this intel, we lost 1 SB-3, destroyed 3 damaged, and we did no damage to the Japanese troops on the ground. So that's a little bit frustrating. As you may remember from our last episode, we are going to be issuing a max effort combat air patrol over Singapore, so we'll see how things play out there. And immediately we're into a large-scale battle now. The Japanese have 63 Zeros coming against us, and we have 74 Ki-21-2A Sallies also arrayed against us. So you can see here we've got a pretty large combat air patrol intercepting, but it's a hodgepodge of aircraft. We've got P-40B Warhawks, CW-21B Demons, Buffalo 1s, H-81A3s of the Flying Tigers, 5 B-339D Dutch Buffaloes, 3 75A7 Hawks, and 3 P-40E American Warhawks. This is going to take a while to resolve, guys, so we're just going to fast forward and see what happens. You can see here the Sally numbers went down pretty substantially, and they did get through to drop some bombs on Singapore, but if they really lost 25 bombers or so, I got to imagine the formation's bombing was not terribly accurate, and hopefully they don't do much damage to our runway or our aircraft on the ground. So let's go ahead and skip through the bombing. There's going to be another engagement phase on the back end. Not really much damage done there. You can see 74 Sallies, 63 Zeros. We intercepted with 21 Buffaloes. That was the mainstay of the intercepting force. But all told, we had 34, 36, 39, 43, and 48 aircraft intercept. According to this intelligence, we lost 1 Swordfish and 1 Whirlaway on the ground. We lost 3 aircraft in air-to-air combat while destroying 6 enemy aircraft in the air, 1 flak, 4 bombers, 1 Zero destroyed. Only 7 runway hits and 1 airbase hit, so at the very least the bombing was very ineffective. even if we did take some casualties in the air. We'll have to see what the post-turn phase looks like, though, to see what we actually lost, because there's a lot of fog of war there. Meanwhile, another raid over China, this one on Changsha, where we just moved 2 squadrons of the Flying Tigers. We've got 26 H-81A3 P-40 variants of the Flying Tigers and intercepting against 18 Japanese Oscar fighter planes and 47 Japanese Ki-51 Sonya dive bombers. The Oscars are the 1C variant, which is, I believe, the best of the Oscar variants, I think. But I'm not sure. We'll go ahead and fast forward through here and see what happens. You can see we knocked the Oscar numbers went down quite a bit. Looks like 40 Sonyas still made it through. But according to this intelligence, we shot down 5 enemy Oscars and 2 dive bombers. If we really shot down 7 enemy aircraft and only lost 1 of our own, that is a tremendously successful turn. Very happy about that. All the Japanese fighter pilots that we can kill now, the better. Meanwhile, a second raid coming in with 9 Sonyas and 11 P-40s. Looks like the P-40s are engaging but being driven away by defensive fire. We'll fast forward through here, and we're claiming 3 Sonyas destroyed at no loss, so that's good. Meanwhile, a second raid coming in on Singapore, 12 Sallies, 6 Zeros against what's left of our combat air patrol. We'll fast forward through that as well. You'll remember that our orders on our last turn were for a multi-layered combat air patrol, so we have aircraft that are ordered from anywhere between 12 to 23,000 feet, it looks like. So we had some patrol groups at 13,000 feet, like the Hawks. We had some patrols at higher altitudes, I believe, if I can find any of them, if we scroll down through here. Yeah, we had P-40s at 20,000 feet. We had some at 18,000 feet. So the whole idea, the whole trap, the cap trap in this day was trying to have a multi-layered combat air patrol where his fighters would essentially get stuck at a different altitude, engaging our own fighters, and then the fighters of ours that were at a lower altitude closer to the bombers could break into the bomber formation and do some damage. We'll see if that actually occurred, but again, this result is 2 aircraft shot down on our end for 1 bomber destroyed. That's not a very good result if those are the actual casualties. Meanwhile, more Sonyas coming in against H-81s, more intercepted Sonyas, 4 Sonyas destroyed, no allied losses. So we've really torn his Sonyas apart here over China. Meanwhile, you can see some Oscars, again, dealing with our bombers here northwest of Hankow. And then we've got our own bombers going into Mersing, where we'll be launching an attack next turn as well. So you can see there some 139 Dutch bombers. We've got 4 Hudsons and 4 Blenheims also dropping payloads over the Japanese. We've got 9 Blenheim 4s and 9 Wildebeests bombing the Japanese troops. They're not doing a lot of damage to these guys. Looks like they're bombing in thunderstorms, so they probably don't have very good visual on the enemy targets, which is unfortunate because I'm launching an attack and it would really be great to do some damage. Even the B-17s didn't do anything. Yikes. Okay, so we're back into the recon phase. I can't remember if this is the PM phase or if this is the post-air phase, but we're going to go ahead and fast forward this again as well. We'll see if anything else interesting occurs. Nope, now we're into the PM air phase. So lots and lots of recon. Seems to mainly be focused in China and on the Malay Peninsula. That's where we're jumping to the most. And you can see the Japanese are launching a raid near Wuchao with 16 ANs and then some 21 fighter aircraft. They're also launching a raid with 15 IDAs against our ground troops there, trying to soften them up, presumably for Japanese attacks. Some Lilies coming in as well. Our Dutch bombers coming in from Borneo against the Japanese troops near Mersing. All right. Kind of fast forwarding through this turn just a little bit. Japanese submarine firing torpedoes at a transport off the Australian coast, the Salamua, and put a torpedo into her. So good thing is she's very close to Sydney, so she hopefully can limp into Sydney and repair. Meanwhile, one of our submarines, the Perch, which is making a move towards Surabaya, the Dutch East Indies, is suffering from some temporary flotation failures. But that looks like it's going to do it. Well, actually, no, we've still got the land combat phase. So some fighting here northwest of Hankow. Japanese troops are bombarding Chinese troops. The Japanese actually lost more casualties. They had fewer guns than the defending forces, which are ours. Additional bombardment attack occurring near Wuchao. We lost 200 men. I believe that may have been because we were in move orders. Meanwhile, we're launching a shock attack at Mersing with some pretty heavy forces there launching the attack. You can see here we got 1-to-1 odds. We inflicted 587 casualties for only 264 of our own. So we did have 34 squads disabled, but none were destroyed. Meanwhile, he lost 9 squads destroyed. So that's actually a very good result for us. The disabled squads, if we can drive them into the sea, we'll be able to rest and refit in the several weeks that we have before Singapore will be invested. But the Japanese troops, the destroyed ones anyway, are gone for good. Hopefully that means that he'll be weak enough for us to destroy in the next turn or two near Mersing before he can bring in additional reinforcements. Meanwhile, the 51st Chinese Corps is being attacked by elements of the Japanese 32nd Division and is driving them back toward the interior of China. 48 Japanese casualties against 646 Chinese casualties. The Japanese are attacking on the North Borneo coast at Brunei against a Royal Navy base force, and as predicted, they do capture the base at Brunei. The Allied forces are retreating, so they didn't surrender, but they'll probably be driven into the jungle where they can't really do anything there. Meanwhile, Johnston Island's increasing fortifications, several other bases are increasing fortifications, and that's going to do it for the December 27th turn. So we're going to go ahead and pause for just a second. I'll throw a transition in here, and we'll take a look and see what the actual results look like from inside the turn. So I'll see you guys after the break. All right, so we're back into this turn. First things first, let's move to the Dutch East Indies where all the action is. And let's take a look at our air units over here. So we can see, and I already made changes for this turn just as a reminder, but you can see here we have 50 aircraft ready. It was actually 37, but I brought in the 67th RAF Squadron, which was based up here in the Dutch East Indies. We brought it in to reinforce our forces in Singapore. So at Singapore, we now have 50 ready fighters, 98 total fighters, with 15 brand new Buffaloes. In addition to that, we've got some 32 torpedo dive bombers whose orders are naval strike first, but as you'll know, they are bombing the troops at Mersing, so their secondary orders are ground attack. And then we have some bombers still operating out of Singapore as well. I did disband one of my B-17 squadrons because, frankly, it didn't have enough bombers to be effective. And by disbanding one, and it will reform itself in 4 months anyway, and we'll get free planes then too. But in the meantime, we now have 3 squadrons of B-17s, all with 4 or more B-17s ready for action, with another 8 in reserve. We've got a total of 14 ready B-17s and 8 in reserve, so 22 B-17s currently at Singapore. We also have 6 Blenheims that are repairing. I did move some fighters back to Johor Bahru. The damage at the base dropped below 40, which I believe is the cutoff for it to be able to bomb. So we now have some 25 or 33 aircraft out of Johor Bahru, of which something like 25 of them are bombers, which are all going to be ordered to hit Mersing as well. Actually, these guys weren't ordered to hit Mersing, but now they will be. Let's go ahead and save that now that we made that change. And I think one of the... let's take a look actually at the casualties. So there was not a lot of transparency around what happened last turn in terms of losses. So let's take a look and see what our best guess is on actual losses. If we take a look here, this is a very good day again for the Allied Air Forces in the Malay Peninsula. You can see the Japanese lost 42 aircraft shot down. We lost 21. 21 aircraft is not insignificant, but the Japanese lost 32 more Sallies in these operations over Singapore. He is losing bombers and pilots by the bucket load, and that is going to come back to hurt him long term. Planes less so than the pilots, but that's a really encouraging scene. That's the second time we've shot down more than 20 of his bombers in a single day over Singapore. I think it's the third time we've done it overall, because we shot down like 40 Bettys at one point. In addition to that, that means he now has over 115 Sallies shot down. But the other surprise, which is really pretty cool, is we're claiming 10 Oscars shot down. Wait a minute, these numbers don't add up. Over here it says 42 enemy losses, but the Sallies, if those are really 32, the Oscars are 10, the Zeros are 6. Right there, that's 48. And if we go down the list, there's a few more too. This is kind of strange. Yes, there's fog of war, but I've never seen the Allied aircraft lost over here on the right differ from, like, the cumulative. I don't know if we got, like, a bad save or something. I mean, 42 to 21 is still a really good ratio for us if this is true. And this is even better. It's claiming we lost 6 Buffaloes. We didn't really lose much of anything else. We lost some B-339s. If we go to the Dutch Air Forces, oops, wrong ones. If we go to the Dutch Air Forces out of Djambi, it looks like we still have 25 ready aircraft. Fatigue is all manageable there for probably one more turn. The B-339Ds are kind of worn to the ground, though. There's 0 ready aircraft, so we really need a lower or either increase the number of aviation support at this base or lower the number of aircraft operating out of here. Still, we've got 2 largely intact squadrons of Demons and Hawks flying out of Djambi. So 25 aircraft over in Cap over Singapore, 50 out of Singapore. That's 75 fighters. At Mersing, you'll see we did lose about 60 assault value. Turn over turn, but not much in the way of permanently destroyed losses. Almost all of these casualties looking through here are like disrupted infantry, which can regain their effectiveness if they're pulled out. So that's good. We did burn through a lot of the supply, though, so that's something I think we need to be mindful of. The 8th Indian Brigade has just moved down from up north in the Malay Peninsula. Meanwhile, the 28th Gurkhas should be arriving at Mersing next turn. The 5th Field Artillery Regiment is moving toward Mersing, slowly but surely. These artillery batteries are moving towards Singapore. Part of me just wants to send a bunch of strong units to Mersing and to see if we can just overwhelm him in one sort of massive strike. There's no reason to hold all of these units back. Some of them need to rest and refit, but we don't have to hold them all back. If we could throw them into the sea, that would be great. Loyal Battalion. These guys are perfect fitness. So we're going to do this. We're going to order, what is that, 200. We're going to order the majority of our assault value forward here. Most of these are completely fresh troops, no disruption, nothing like that. They should all get there pretty quick. And then hopefully they can just overwhelm and crush him before he has a chance to respond. This Punjab Brigade. Or battalion. So this will probably be a few days before anybody arrives. But none of these are engineer troops, so none of these will have an impact on the actual fighting here. 2 Malay battalions. So it's unfortunate we can't build them into a single like brigade or regiment or something like that. I think I'm going to move the majority of my strength forward, though. He's nowhere near Singapore. We'll leave a token force back just in the event that he tries to land something. But we've got coastal guns there that'll make that largely impossible. So we'll leave the 1st Manchester Battalion. Well, actually, there's a lot of machine guns there. I'd like them involved. And I may rethink this in a turn or two and not go with this course of action. But for the moment, we're going to follow this course of action. So those guys are militia. We'll keep them back. These base forces will stay back. All right, we'll see. We'll give it a turn or two. We'll see how quickly they move north, and we'll see if we can consolidate against Mersing and just crush him. Because I really want to drive him back into the sea at Mersing and then give my troops down here a week or two as he moves south to rest and refit. So if crushing him at Mersing does that, great. Meanwhile, he took Brunei here on the northern Borneo coast, and he also advanced into Manila, so he hasn't taken the city yet, but he now has some troops at Manila facing off against our troops there. In China, he drove a few units back, not much going in China. I think I've ordered all of my air forces at Changsha to stand down. Hopefully he doesn't bomb there again after those Oscar losses. I don't have a lot to say this turn, to be honest, guys. We had the sort of discussion about Singapore moving reinforcements forward to Mersing. Our naval units are kind of just chilling. They're kind of doing their thing, and units are moving around. The Prince of Wales is still at 57 float damage. The Repulse, meanwhile, is a little bit of a ways away from getting to Cape Town. They're probably another week away from Cape Town at flank speed, more outside of flank speed, and they're still moving forward, moving toward the base. In the Australian area, we peeled one unit off with an Indian brigade of troops here to unload at Port Moresby. So we're going to have an Indian brigade that's going to strengthen the force already at Port Moresby, which should give us about 170 assault value in a quality Indian brigade. Meanwhile, another Indian brigade is going to head south for Nomaya, and these are troops that were originally bound for Singapore. We've got various units unloading at Nomaya. We've got various units unloading at Fiji and Nadi. The Queen, is it the Queen Victoria? No, Queen Elizabeth made it through to Nadi, and she's unloading over the beach with the 1st Australian Battalion. Pago Pago, meanwhile, has pulled the last of those fighters out and transferred them over to Suva. Our naval units here, the 161st American Infantry Regiment is arriving at Suva today. The 111th United States Base Force is also arriving at Suva today. And that's really good as far as like a strength of the base thing, because they've got some aviation support in this base force, because all base forces do. 3, 2, I don't really want to... I think I only have 2 transports carrying these guys. Is this really just naval support? Did I already unload some of the troops? We did, it looks like. The 111th USN Base Force. Okay, so 36 additional aviation support, which gets us up to 111 aircraft can operate out of Suva. That's quite a bit. Meanwhile, these guys are pulling out. We're expanding the fortifications and the airfield. We now have 40 engineers, 6 engineer vehicles on site. Additional fuel. All right, so it says the fuel and supply limit there. What does it say for Bataan? Supply limit's 32,000 without spoilage. We're way over that. We're at 54,000. Meanwhile, we have more convoys moving in as well to provide more supply to the Philippines. We've got 9,000 supply on these HKLs. They're probably 2 days out. We've got an additional 1,700 on this AKL. So about 10,700 more supplies are moving toward Bataan. We're trying to expand the airfield mainly just so we can get a higher supply limit, because the more supply we have, the harder it is going to be for the Japanese to deal with us. Showed you all these units sort of unloading on Fiji or whatever. We're also pulling some troops, moving some troops around. We're pulling some ships back to Auckland as well, some cruisers and what have you. One thing I wanted to do. So we're going to go ahead, and the 8th New Zealand Brigade can actually be formed here because we have 3 New Zealand battalions on the island of Suva. Each with 47 assault value, all with regular infantry. They're all New Zealanders, and we can actually rebuild the 8th New Zealand Brigade and have 107 New Zealand infantry squads all operating together. And I think that will give us a lot more efficiency and make us better at defending the base. So that'll be good to see. Actually, 143 assault value there. So that's good. We also have the 160 assault value coming ashore of the 161st American Infantry Regiment, so there will be 300 assault value here. Meanwhile, the 9th Australian Brigade is moving west, so we'll have about 150 assault value on Nadi, but we've also got another brigade and another battalion coming in, so we'll have about 600 assault value on the island of Fiji all told before too long. Meanwhile, some additional reinforcements coming in, some supply convoys for Pago Pago. We've got additional supply convoys over here. We've got some oilers heading for Suva. In addition to that, we've got more troops coming south. We've got 3,400 troops, the 8th Marine Regiment, heading to Pago. And we've got, what else? These guys are unloading supply at Christmas Island. Fuel coming south in large quantities to Suva. Supplies, tankers. I know we've got more. There we go. 4,000 more troops. These guys heading to Pago. It gives us a USN base force, a construction regiment, another base force, and another infantry regiment. So that'll really bring the strength of Pago up with a 300 between the Marines and the infantry, plus the 250 or the 58 here. It'll about 400 assault value on that island. We've also issued orders to reinforce Johnston Island. Are these guys all back to 100? No, they're not. Can't dock. Port size. We can't dock anything? Dock. Replenish. Actually, they already did replenish. Remain on station. And issue orders to move over to this area. Nice. Okay, so this move is going to get our S-boats in range. That's good to know. All right, so patrol. We'll do the S-boat again. Dock and... Well, he's already replenished, so no retirement. Send these guys over west. Those guys will go to Rongelap. I'm just assuming, based off sort of some deductive reasoning that we've got here, that the Japanese can't supply everything this far south without making some serious compromises. My assumption is one of those compromises is he must be running very low on fuel. So my hope is that maybe I can get lucky and find a fuel convoy or something to that effect, intercept. Did one of my submarines just randomly go missing? I've only got 3 sub-patrols. Oh, no. Wait, those are 2. 1. Alright, I guess I just have to split that one then. So we'll form a new task force here. Sub-patrol. Oh, we moved one of them into the island itself. Okay. Don't retire. All right, so we're putting some by Kwajalein. We should also probably put some over by truck, just to be safe. This is not quite the anti-commerce campaign that you probably are expecting with the submarine campaign, but really it's about sort of hitting his tankers, and that's going to give us the biggest bang for our buck. And my assumption is if he's doing all these operations, he's got to have tankers. You know, he's got to have something nearby. Did I burn through all the fuel? Almost. All right, so that's going to do it for our orders at Johnston Island. We'll go ahead and save there. I've also issued orders for a Marine Coastal Battalion to come to Johnston Island, help reinforce that base, which is very close to the front lines, but also very close to Pearl Harbor. And with that being said, guys, really that's about all I've got. I've got my battleships that are moving east. No real damage that we could see from them. We'll see if we end up with another large air battle or if maybe he takes a break over Singapore. I tweaked my orders there too, so we'll see if it actually leads to anything. I've reinforced some troops in Burma, but that doesn't really matter much. And not much else has happened this turn. So, I don't have a lot to add over what we've already provided. I hope you guys are enjoying the series. I guess we'll see what happens. I think the big question mark is, are we going to have another big fight over Singapore? And additionally, what, transpires at Mersing here. I'm still bombing the troops there. I may attack, or I may just, actually, I think probably smarter to hold off on attacking till after those reinforcements arrive, and then we can really kick the Japanese in the teeth. I just hate taking the pedal off of the gas when you consider that, that's going to let them regain their composure and lower their disruption and all of that jazz. But with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this turn up. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and we'll see what happens next time around. Until next time, however, this is the Historical Gamer, as always, saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.